Dance rendition. Tough acts to follow, but I'll try. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long day. I promise you I won't keep you very long, but I'm happy to be here at Coral Reef Senior High School, especially with my buddy, Mr. Ennis over there. He started talking about me and me being a mentor for him and motivating him and all that. But you guys don't know that I sent him a text message before I got here and told him to say that. So that's why I said it. But no, I do want to thank him for welcoming me with open arms and embracing our program from day one, even in his prior assignments as a principal. So the love just kind of moved with him as he moved to Coral Reef Senior High. So I salute you, sir. Keep up the good work. I really appreciate what you do on behalf of all of the kids here in Barracuda country. Special thanks to Ms. Garcia, Ms. Rivero, and the wonderful PTSA officers and brass. You know, I've been doing a lot of work this year with Joe Jabara, who is the Miami-Dade County PTA president. And it's funny because when he first got elected, he said that he wanted to change the perception of PTSA as being more than just bake sales and carnivals and things of that nature. And I said to him, well, with a male president, I'm sure that's going to be easy for you to do. But I salute Joe. He's done a fantastic job at changing the face of PTA and getting more male involvement. And so with that said, I'm very happy to see so many gentlemen this evening. That's definitely different. So before I talk about what I'm supposed to talk about tonight, I want to share something because I'm here at a PTA meeting, so it's only right. And I want to share with you the fact that I cannot stand my mother.
What?
Yeah, I said it. You might have a problem with it. You can meet me outside. No, seriously, I can't stand her because she has got to be the meanest mother on the face of the earth. You say that's okay, right? I mean, seriously, what type of woman would not let me hang out all times of night, run the street with my knucklehead friends, and joyride in the cars that they were stealing, and skip school when everybody else was doing it? I mean, I couldn't even skip on senior skip day. It wouldn't let me sell or do any drugs. I mean, what kind of woman would make her son read?
A good woman.
And study. I know Corey and Amir, feel me. You can make them read and study and graduate in the top 5% of their class from high school, to go on to college on a presidential scholarship, and then go forward and get a master's degree and get certified in ed leadership. I mean, I try to think about what a mother should be. And I think about that, and I'm like, she had to be the worst. She had to be the worst. Don't clap for that. Don't clap for that. She had to be the worst. And to top it all off, I cannot stand her for making me turn out to be the successful gentleman that you see standing in front of you. So, Mom, wherever you are, I just want you to know I hate you. I don't thank you for doing anything and keeping your foot on my throat the entire time. No, seriously, I know a lot of young people, especially young people in the room, you may feel that way sometimes. You may feel like your parents are suffocating you, or they don't want you to have any fun. Okay? Let me let you in on a little secret. They know exactly what they're doing. They're not trying to stop you from having fun. They're trying to stop you from getting caught up in the pitfalls that society has to offer. that will lead you down a self-destructive path that is impossible to recover from. They're not trying to keep you away from your friends. They're trying to keep you away from the wrong crowd.
Amen.
And see, you in your ever-knowingness at 15, 16, 17 years old, you don't see it that way. You don't see those individuals that you're hanging with as the wrong crowd. You see them, but Mom, those are my friends. You're ruining my life. I know all these things because I said all these things. And I remember feeling like I was in prison, not just in prison, but in solitary confinement because I couldn't do all of this stuff. So for every mean mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, abuela, tio, whoever you are, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Continue to be hard on them. Continue to provide that structure, that discipline for them, even though they don't understand it now. They will. I didn't realize it until I was about 22 years old. I graduated from college and was looking at my life and looking at the lives of individuals that I went to school with. And I looked at their lives and said, ooh, boy, I'm glad I had the warden at home, making sure that I stayed on the right track and I stayed out of trouble, because I could have easily been on that side of the tracks as opposed to standing in front of this podium talking to you this evening. So all these mean mothers, I see the faces, I know who you are, I can smell it, I see it, I know. Keep up the great work. Keep up the great work, seriously. I was born and raised here in Miami, in a small town called Opa-locka that you may have heard of or not. But I was a late 70s baby, and I was raised in the 80s. Back then when in my opinion, we still had this surrogate family mentality. And those of you that were around in that era, you know exactly what I'm talking about. See, back then, children were still afraid of adults simply because they were adults. Children showed respect to their elders, regardless if it was their parents or not. I remember on my block, there was this lady, her name was Miss Catnip. Don't ask me what her real name was. I don't know, that's just what we called her, right? But nobody knew what her real name was, but the one thing that we did know, we knew that Miss Catnip did not play. She didn't even play the radio. Like, she was mean, right? There was a problem though. The problem was, she had the best mango tree on the block. I mean, the good ones, like this bright color red and yellow mixture, nice texture, the best ones. No one else's tree could produce those types of mangoes. I don't know if her trees were on steroids or what. No other tree would produce those types of mangoes. So, me being the leader that I am, I told myself that I was going to be the block hero this day. And I was going to jump her gate. And I was going to take my shirt and make it, put as many mangoes as I could in the shirt, and then get out of Dodge. Perfect plan in my head. It was a fantastic, flawlessly executed plan in my head. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. One of the other neighbors, her next door neighbor, saw me jump the gate. So, and then he called her and told her that I was in her backyard. So here I am, creeping, pulling the mangoes and getting them out, putting them in my shirt. And the back door comes flying up, like SWAT team flying up. And here she is, standing on the porch, literally caught me red-handed. I had a mango in hand, like, just looking at her. she then walks over to the same mango tree, pulls a switch off of it. This is a true story. Pulls a switch off of it and commits to tearing my legs up. Okay? I was probably 8, maybe, at the time. If that wasn't bad enough, she grabbed me by the collar, marched me down the street. Okay, so she was probably 8 houses down. And I don't know if she sent out a text message or email or whatever to tell everybody what had happened, but for some reason, all the neighbors were outside watching me walk the Green Mile. Because that's what it was, because going home, yeah, that was it. It was over. So she walks me down the street, she rings the doorbell, my mom comes to the door. Okay. Those parents, they are sitting there. You know that face you make when someone brings your child that you didn't authorize necessarily to bring your child home? That face, that's what welcomed us at the door. She opens the door, my mom opens the door, she just looks at me. She gives me a look that says 1,000 things all at once. She didn't say a word, she didn't have to. So Miss Catnip goes on to tell her the story of what happened. Then she goes on to tell her that she already took care of it.
All right.
And then she decides that she's going to help my mother take care of it again. See, as mad as I was at this Catnip before that, we as a society right now, we're missing that. Not necessarily the tearing up the legs part, we can leave that out, but the surrogate community family. Our children need that. We need to create that. We need to recreate that. When you look around, there used to be a sense of community. Now, most people don't even really fraternize with their neighbors. Literally, their next door neighbor. And with the advancements of technology and all of the screen time that we have now, kids don't even go outside anymore. I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old son. I force them to go outside. No, you're going outside. And you're gonna run and breathe in this polluted air, but you're gonna breathe it in because I'd rather you be outside getting to know the other kids in the neighborhood than sit in front of an iPad or a computer. And they tell me, well, Daddy, I'm connecting, I'm playing Madden online. Yeah, it's not the same thing. I'd rather you play football in the backyard with other kids than to be playing Madden online. See, this sense of community, we need to recreate that, and we start right here. There's a very strong community that I'm looking at right now. So, we've been seeing this proliferation of drugs in our neighborhood, guns in our neighborhoods, murders taking place in our backyards. And we can't wait for politicians and the government and their sound bites and all of that to change what's happening. These are our children. This is our responsibility. We have to take our community back. So I said all that to say, the fact that you are here tonight, where you could have been at home cooking dinner, most of you just got off of work, tired. It's Tuesday. It's not even like Thursday where you're like, okay, well, tomorrow's Friday, I can slack off a little bit. No. But you're here. You're here because your children are important to you, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, whoever it is, whoever interest you represent here at Coral Reef. This is why you were here. And I applaud you for that. And I salute you for that. Now, we're talking, this is February, right? So when Mr. Burns and those reached out to me and asked me to come and speak, I said, what do you want to talk about? And he said, well, it's a Black History program, so talk about Black history. And I said, thanks for the specificity. No. So I'm in my mind, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna talk about? So we take time out to honor various African Americans who blazed a trail or made some kind of mark on the world and on society and on our country. And there are a number of individuals to choose from. You got Harriet Tubman and Mary McLeod Bethune, and you got Frederick Douglass, and W.E.B. Du Bois. You got the list goes on. As I walked into Corey on the office, on the glass, they have a number of African American icons, Benjamin Banneker and the like. And so I found myself in quite the conundrum, trying to figure out what I'm going to talk about and how I'm going to do it. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my wife. This is on Sunday. I'm talking to my wife, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. So I told you I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. So my 5-year-old, we call him 40 because he acts like he's 40, like he's been here before. He has an old soul, and he's a listener. So he comes in and he sits down Indian style, and he's just listening to the conversation between my wife and I. And we go on for a few minutes, and then I'm saying to her, I don't know who I should choose, who I should talk about, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to bore people to sleep. What do I want to talk about? What do you talk about? He raises his hand. And I said, Trent, you have something to say? He says, yeah, Daddy. I know who you should talk about. I said, you do? Who should I talk about? He said, you should talk about Grandma. I said, shut up, man. Talking about Black history icons and people that have made a difference in the world, man. And so I keep going, talking. And he says, but Daddy. No, exactly what I said was, talking about people that have done stuff. And he says, she's done stuff. So I looked at her, I looked at my wife, and she just kind of like, kid has a point. I said, keep talking. He said, well, she works with the president, and she does this, and she does that. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, see, the funny thing about it is, I don't see it that way. I guess because I'm so close to it, because I'm desensitized to it. But for those of you that don't know, my mother is Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, the hat lady. For those that aren't familiar and don't live in the district. And I realized that I had the pleasure and privilege of growing up in the house with a real life Black history icon. And I was telling Corey and Amir as we were sitting here, I told them that story about how I got to where I am in regards to what I'm talking about. And I told them that I had to take a step out of myself as her son and look at it from a different perspective. And so I called her office and I said, listen, send me my mom's bio. And they sent it to me. And as I started to read it, I'm like, wow, you did that? Oh, she did this? I don't remember this. Where was I when this happened? This kind of stuff. So it brought to me a different perspective about her. So there was this article that I found that was written by Daniel Pearl, who some of you may know that name, the renowned reporter who was kidnapped by the Pakistani government and killed back in 2002. He was a reporter for the Wall Street Journal, but this article that he wrote was in December of 1991. And it outlined the events that led to this major composting plant being shut down. Now, the plant was called AgriPost, and it was built back in '88, and it was across the street from Skyway Elementary, which is a very small, nondescript elementary school up near the Brown County line. And at the time, my mother was the principal, and she was a veteran, administrator at the time, and Stephen Clark was the mayor actually at the time. And County Hall had this idea to help deal with Miami-Dade's trash problem by turning household garbage into compost, right? By fermenting and shredding, and this composting technology was supposed to be a soil additive for agricultural use in farmers and the like. So it's a great idea in theory. It was fantastic. Harvey Rubin at the time was sitting on that commission, and he talked about this being such an innovative idea, and this is going to change the face of garbage disposal and agriculture. But that didn't turn out as they planned it, because they didn't count on this little 5'2" little lady with this big mouth that was the principal right across the street. So after it opened, okay, and I was about 2 years removed from the school as a student at this time, but I would, my bus would drop me off at the school every afternoon and I would ride home with her. But after it opened, it started to emit this odor. And it wasn't just your normal kind of household garbage odor. Anybody that's familiar with composting, you know the type of odor that I'm talking about. It never goes away. My mom actually described it as smelling like rotten eggs and dog poop, kind of like mixed together. So she got smart, and she had the students to start writing letters and making phone. This is before email, gentlemen, so you actually had to literally write a letter and fold it and put an envelope with a stamp on it. You know what a stamp is? You know what a stamp is? Anyway, writing these letters and showing up at the commission meetings every week. She would bring a busload of students, parents, all dressed in these red shirts that said Skyway Elementary, blah, 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 and they would stand on their tippy toes to talk at the meeting, and they would fill the public hearing agenda up, you know, and filibust, basically, about this topic. Week in, week out. Week in, week out. Newspapers started talking about this little lady that was leading this charge. And who did she think she was? She was just a principal. She knew nothing about agriculture. She knew nothing about composting. She knew nothing about the commission. But what she did know was kids. And she knew that that plant was causing harm to her students. I remember clearly one morning, she told me, Paul, you need to be very careful when you're getting on and getting off of the bus. I'm like, okay, you're a middle school kid, like whatever, lady, yeah, you're paranoid. But I later found out why. She had been receiving these threatening phone calls saying, we know that Paul rides bus XYZ. We know what time it picks him up. We know what time it drops him off. If you want him to remain alive, drop this composting bin. She received a call and an offer of $1 million American dollars. This is 1991. It's not even a million now. I'm talking $1 million then. To let the case go. We're talking about a $140 million business, ladies and gentlemen. And she was this huge monkey wrench in their ability to make money, okay? Daniel Pearl said, what's the plant's biggest nemesis in this article that I talked about? The Skyway Elementary School across the street. The principal is a self-proclaimed environmentalist, so she started telling people, I'm an environmentalist. And this composting plant is causing my kids to have asthma attacks and respiratory issues. So kids started going to doctors. And doctors started coming to these meetings saying, listen, this kid was perfectly fine prior to this plant open. So they kept going, they kept going, they kept going. It took a year and 3 months. But lo and behold, January 1991, Stephen Clark looked at her and said, lady, I'm tired of seeing you coming down here with all of these kids and all of these parents. We are revoking their zoning. And we are shutting the composting plant down.
Wow.
They spent $40 million to build it. So then they turned around and they sued the county in 1994 for $140 million. 40 million is for building it, and then 100 million for destroying their company, basically. The company went bankrupt. A couple of days ago, I rode by that area. I was headed to a school in Broward, and I happened to have to take that road. And the building is still there. It's dilapidated, it's covered in graffiti and all that, but when you look across the street, the little elementary school, which is now Dr. Frederica Wilson Elementary School, is still standing and still standing strong. A real life Black history icon did that. And I lived with her. I lived with her in the house, you know, and that experience with Agripos is actually what led and served as a springboard for her to even get involved in politics in the first place. A lot of people don't know that, but that's exactly what it was. So she ran for the school board and was elected. And back then, the school board was county line to county line, 7 members, district-wide. So she campaigned from Northern Dade to Homestead. And her first achievement while sitting as a board member was the establishment of the then 500 Role Models of Excellence, which is this district-sanctioned mentoring program that services at-risk youth. Okay? And I gotta say that we have a fantastic chapter right here at Coral Reef that Corey and Amir are part of. And Corey, you're the vice president, right, of the chapter, and Mr. Ennis has been familiar with the role models for quite some time, and now known as the 5,000 role models, we are national. Okay, we've received national acclaim. I have the pleasure and the privilege of being the director of that program now, and I'm happy to say that I service over 8,000 young men in Miami-Dade County schools alone. Not to mention the 65 chapters that I have running in Pinellas County schools, as well as the 10 chapters that I just opened over the summer in Jacksonville, Florida, Duval County. We've sent countless young men to college on scholarships. Young men where college was never even in their portfolio, or they didn't feel as though they were college material or college bound. In 1997, she was honored by Bill Clinton with this program, and just recently, in May of 2015, she was appointed as an advisor to President Obama's My Brother's Keeper Alliance initiative, and he named this program as one of 2 flagship mentoring programs as blueprints across the country. And that right there was super significant for her, because this is her life's work. I can tell you that. This is her life's work, this is her legacy, this is her mark on the world. And she is so proud, because he often talks about the young men in the red ties. He says it often. We just had last Friday down at the Hyatt of My Brother's Keeper Challenge, where all of the mayors from the various municipalities all met together and accepted the challenge and the responsibility of making sure that the young men in their communities have as many opportunities as they possibly can. A real life Black history icon did that. Someone that I can talk to and touch. You know, this is why this is so weird for me, because, you know, I think back to her time as a state legislator when she was in Tallahassee, both as a member of the House of Representatives as well as a senator. And I watched as she worked across the aisle, bipartisan, and worked with Jeb Bush to remove the Confederate flag from the front of the state capitol. I remember her passing a bill that mandated HIV and AIDS testing for prisoners that were coming out and linking them with treatment in the counties that they were being relocated to. I remember her changing the laws and making rape in prison by guards to female prisoners a felony charge. It was a misdemeanor. For a number of years sitting on the book, she's shaking her head. She knows that, okay? I remember her relocating mothers that were in prison to prisons closer to where their children were so that they could have some sort of maternal relationship. I remember her pushing for a ban of the use of the term illegal alien in public records and in public documents. And I remember her partnering with then Governor Charlie Crist to restore voting rights for ex-felons. And I had a front row seat. I was in Tallahassee at the time and didn't pay any attention to any of this stuff. But now, in retrospect and in hindsight, looking at it, I'm like, you're a real life Black history icon, lady. So, as a congresswoman, she's the ranking Democrat on the Education and Workforce Protections Committee and introduced the American Jobs Act of 2013 that has bolstered workforce, and the Student Loan Borrower Act and the Bill of Rights, and she has sponsored legislation to bring down insurance premiums from homeowners, and she's brought, if I'm not mistaken, over $3 billion to her district in terms of grants, jobs, that kind of thing. She was also the founder of the Port Caucus, which was this coalition that came up and helped pass this Water Resources and Reform Development Act. This act was sitting on the books for about 12 years and it was stalled. Okay. Once she pushed it and got it passed, what happened? They got the funds to build a port tunnel that we are utilizing every single day. So when I didn't know that. That's the thing. I didn't know all of this stuff. So when I look at her ability to cross party lines, that's something that she's always been really good at, and that's working on both sides of the aisle. She didn't care if you're Democrat, Republican, independent, black, white, green, purple, male, female, doesn't matter. If you are about saving the lives of kids, she loves you. And she'll work with you, and she'll do any and everything that she can to help you. She truly understands Congress's role as a global leader, and this is probably the thing that I'm most proud of with her. Over the course of the past 2.5 years or so, she's been pushing a hashtag in a campaign to bring back our girls. There were about 300 young women kidnapped by the terrorist group Boko Haram in Nigeria. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with that, but she's been working. She's flown to Nigeria probably 6 times, meeting with the former president and now a couple of times with the new president. And her efforts and her not dropping the ball, that's another thing. She's like a pit bull. Once she locks on, that's it. And that's it. You are either going to bleed or you are going to give up. But she is not going to let go. So through all of this and everything that she's been pushing with this, they found 219 of those young ladies. Wow. She brought 19 of them back to the States, got them housing in Washington, D.C., got them enrolled in college in Washington, D.C., and those young ladies are every single day getting a little closer to a sense of normalcy. If I were to tell you some of the stories that the young ladies told us when we met them about how their families were tied up in front of them and murdered in front of them, and they were forced to watch, you would think it was something that they were making up. You would think it was something that Stephen King or one of these movie producers thought up in his head for some kind of horror film instead of real life. So when I see that, and I see this Bring Back Our Girls hashtag and this Wear Red Wednesdays, where she, I don't know how, has convinced pretty much every member of Congress to wear something red on Wednesdays, not to forget about these young ladies. and the struggle and the continued struggle to make sure that Boko Haram, which quite frankly is just as dangerous as ISIS and kills just as many people as ISIS, but that they are being dealt with by law enforcement in Nigeria as well as here in the States. They actually called it the Frederica Wilson's War. They call her the conscience of Congress because she actually has a heart and she actually cares about people. This real life Black history icon. See, Congresswoman Wilson wears a number of hats. No pun intended. She really wears a number of hats. To some, she's a school board member, this little 5'2" lightning in a bottle kind of thing that shut down this compost plant that I talked to you about. To some, she's the Florida House lady. She's that worked on both sides, that did so much for District 104 up in the north. For some, she's the senator. She's where her peers selected her to Senate Minority Pro Temp and the Minority Whip at the time when she was there, and she's always trying to improve the life of low-income families in her district. Some know her. To most, she's the congresswoman, right? This flashy lady with these hats and these colorful outfits, and that's on a mission of improving the quality of life and strengthening the ties to the Caribbean, to Cuba, as well as to Haiti. But for my siblings and I, she wears the most important hat, and that's Mom. And that's why this was so weird for me, because it was like, I feel like I'm talking about somebody else, but this is Mom. She's the grandmother, she's the mom, she's the cornerstone of our family, she's the griot, she's the matriarch, she's the grandma, as my kids call her. She is the end don't be all of our family. And as I sit back and I rehash all of this stuff, and those are just some highlights of what she's done, but I can't help but say to myself, Paul, you surely did a damn good job raising her for her to turn out as well as she turned out in doing all of the stuff that she's done. No, honestly, I am extremely proud of her, and I'm proud, and I probably don't say that enough to her. And people say all the time, you should give people the flowers while they can still smell them, kind of thing. And I was telling Corey, I was like, I take that for granted, that she's someone that I can pick up the phone and call, or that I avoid her phone call when it comes in if I'm not really in the mood to talk. She has this thing of calling you at like 4:30 in the morning kind of thing, and then she just launches into whatever it is. No good morning, no allowing your computer to boot up in your head and actually process what she's saying. She just goes. But I'm extremely proud of her, and I don't say it enough, and I don't express it enough, especially publicly. In fact, for a long time, I didn't even introduce myself as her son. I didn't tell people that I was her son. It's hard living under the shadow of that hat, I'll tell you, it is. But at the same time, it is very rewarding. I'm extremely proud of her, and I hope she's 73 years old now, and she's probably getting mad at me for telling you guys that. So don't tell me. Don't tell her you got it on Wikipedia or Google or something. Please don't tell her that. But she's 73, and I don't know where she gets this energy from. I don't know where she gets this tenacity from, this drive, this determination that she has, but I don't know who put the battery in her back. I don't know who set her off, but whoever it did, they did a fantastic job. And she has like a lithium battery, and it doesn't run out. It doesn't run out. So as I close, we celebrate Black history, and we bask. We continue to bask in the just recently the 50th anniversary of the March on Selma, and we see 50 years later that there's still some work to be done. We have made great strides, but there's still a little work to be done. So I want to share some words with you from a man, written by a man whose legacy is still celebrated pretty much every single day around this country and around this world. A man who used his time to fight injustices, to combat racism and inequality. A man who I can draw many parallels between his life and her life, as she is definitely a drum major for peace, a drum major for justice, and a drum major for equality. Dr. Martin Luther King shared these words exactly 60 days prior to his untimely assassination. This is, and I shared this with Corey and Amir earlier. This is the first speech I've ever given. These words right here. I was 3 years old when I did it. It was at Carroll City Senior High School for the Theodore Gibson Oratorical Contest. I know, see, you know. And it has inspired me since then, and I hope it does the same thing to not only the young people here, but also the parents. It's about not living in vain and not allowing your life to be in vain, and making some kind of mark on the world and having some sort of impact. So every now and then, I guess we all think realistically about that day when we will be victimized by what is life's common final denominator. That's something we call death. We all think about it. Every now and then I think about my own death. I think about my own funeral. But I don't think about it in a morbid sense. And every now and then I ask myself, what is it that I once said at my funeral? So if there are any of you are around when I have to meet my day, I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk to me. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. Tell them not to mention that I have 300-400 other awards. That isn't important either. Tell them not to mention where I went to school. But I would like someone to mention that day when Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I want somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try in my life to feed the hungry. I want you to be able to say that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want you to say that I tried to love and serve humanity. And yes, if you must say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. Say that I was a drum major for righteousness, and all of the shallow things will not matter. I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind. I just want to leave a committed life behind. And that's all I want you to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian author, if I can bring salvation to a world once wrong, if I can spread the message as the Master taught, then my living will not be in vain. Parents, please continue to make sure that your young people are not living in vain. I thank you for your time and your attention.